Hi, mystery writers. Welcome to Write a Killer Mystery. I'm Zara Altair, and today I wanted to talk about setting in your mystery because it is so important and it's subtle and powerful. So I'm going to look at 7 ways to use setting in your mystery. First, I want to thank my patrons on Patreon for their continued support of this video series and my mystery writing. And if you would like to join us, there's a link in the description below. Okay, setting. Setting is a subtle way to add so many details to your story without overwhelming your reader with lots of information. And so let's talk about how you do that. It's more than just aesthetics or background detail, it really adds to your story. It's an essential component of the narrative and it can enhance the plot and your characters and understanding your characters. So let's just dive right in. What we normally think of setting is also very important, and that is creating a sense of place. You want to ground your readers in where they are in your story, in that story world, whether it's a fantasy world or a historical world or the present day. You still want to give your readers a sense of where they are. So you definitely want description of the physical location, where they are geographically, and also what's around them in that in that immediate environment, like the architecture and landmarks, and what do your characters see when they look out into that world. And also for historical or fantasy context, you want to give your reader a sense of that place and add details in the same way you do, even if your mystery is set in the current time period. You just sprinkle those details in so your reader has a sense of immediacy. They can hear or taste or smell or touch something in the environment that brings that setting alive for them. You can use the flora and fauna around you in your story, and especially if it's something local, it gives your reader that immediate sense of place. All right. You can also use setting for the emotional pull you want on your reader. It can generate mood and atmosphere in your story. And you can create tension and suspense just with weather conditions. How is your detective going to make it through this torrential downpour to get where he or she wants to go? So, and you can set that scene in the heavy rain or eerie fog, or it just sets the atmosphere of, once again, where your reader is in that story world. You can also use lighting and time of day from dark to bright, and a scene taking place during the twilight hours may evoke a sense of unease or uncertainty as darkness approaches. You can do that, all right? So you can enhance the atmosphere through sensory descriptions of the things that are around. You always think about using those 5 senses to get your reader in touch with that world around them. Oh wait, another way that you can use setting is the socio-cultural context of your story. So people don't often think of this as setting, but it's an important part of What are the social norms? What are the mores? How does your detective have to deal with those social norms and mores as they work to discover the truth, solve the puzzle, and reveal the villain? All right. So, especially if you're in a small town, for instance, you can bring in local customs and traditions. These may feel exotic to your readers, but it gives them a sense of, oh, this is how this town operates. And it's even as simple as things as the local coffee shop where everybody goes and where gossip occurs, and you want to give a sense of how information is transmitted within that town, for instance. And also the language and even the dialect that people use when they're speaking. What are their speech patterns? What are the words that they use? And then once again, those social norms and values and beliefs. If your detective is in a setting where the social norms are different from what he or she usually experiences, they're going to have to navigate those norms with care in order to elicit the information that they need to solve the puzzle. Okay, also, you can integrate the setting with the characters themselves. Um, the, Incorporating the aspects of the setting into their background and motivations. For instance, weather conditions may change your protagonist's decision to act now or do something later. It can be something as simple as that, but you can use that setting to influence your character's motives. And also, once again, about the social norms. Their social norms and their values may be different than the environment of the story world, and so you can set up conflicts with that. And of course, something as simple as the setting, as how your character dresses, and what their attitudes and behaviors are within that story world conflict. Can't talk. Within that story world concept. So don't be afraid to add those details. And then also, once again, the character's relationship with the entire community around them. Um, are are they comfortable there? Does the community feel like they're an intruder and go out of their way to keep information from your detective? Just think of the ways that the setting can impact how your detective has to navigate those those cultural differences in order to get the information that they need to solve the puzzle. And of course, you can use setting to advance the plot. You can incorporate specific elements of the setting into the chain of events in your story, and it makes the story cohesive and engaging for your reader. It can set the conflict and drama of your story. It can offer natural or man made obstacles that keep your detective from following the path they want. And of course, it's a facilitator for all those clues and red herrings that you want to plant in your story. There's locational elements as a unique piece of local artwork or unusual geological features or even specific community traditions. They can all impact your detective's progress in trying to solve the case. And also, you can bring this setting right into the climax and resolution of your story. It can contribute with climatic events. A distinctive aspect of the setting could be central to unmasking the villain. This happens a lot in mysteries, so don't be afraid to use it. Or it can provide a great backdrop, as it were. It is a backdrop. It can provide that backdrop for that high tension climax. So always ground your readers in where they are with the setting. And you can even forecast events through the setting. You can plant subtle hints and clues using the environment. Bring them in early on in the story, and they actually foreshadow what's going to happen later in the story. You can even use elements of the setting to illustrate the story's theme. They can act as a metaphor for what's going on in your story. An abandoned, decaying building may represent the secrets that have long been hidden and left to fester. It's just how you bring that setting in and how you use it is up to you, but do use it. So finally, you want to leverage setting specific details to create realistic and relatable settings for your reader. So the details are all important. And that's why, as I have mentioned once before, instead of having a long narrative description of where your character is in a scene, you just want to bring in certain details and bring them alive in the story. You don't have to have the whole great big picture because readers are able to fill in the blanks, but you can highlight certain details that really embody the sense of where your character is. Of course, you're going to need research to set up your authentic backdrop, so don't overlook it, because research gives you those details that you can put in at any moment in your story to bring that setting to life and impact your detective. I think the most important thing about setting in your mystery is using it. Using it. Don't be afraid to use it. Don't be afraid to bring it in, because every time you bring in setting details, you're grounding your readers in where they are. Where are they in that physical world? So don't forget to use the five senses. In other words, if you want to highlight something in your setting, you can pick one of the five senses, like what does your detective hear in this setting, without describing the whole thing. It's just what your detective hears in this setting, or what they feel, or what they see. This is going to make it much more immediate for your reader and get them very connected to the setting and how it relates to your character and how it relates to the story. I think setting can't be overemphasized. It's something that you can fill in details when you finished your first draft and you're going back through the story. Always make sure that you do have setting details in each scene and that you're connecting the reader with that sensory information of the five senses. I've talked about this before, but you want to have at least two of the five senses in each scene, because each time you do that, you make that setting more real and you get your reader connected to where they are in the story right now in this scene. Okay, and let's see if I have any other notes about this. No, that's it. So if you have any questions about using setting or how to sprinkle the details of it rather than have long narrative passages about the town or the valley or the woods or whatever it is, uh, be sure to ask me questions. I'm happy to answer questions. So thank you for being here. And once again, I want to thank Audible for sponsoring Write a Killer Mystery. And if you haven't experienced Audible before and listening to books, um, there's a description in there's a link in the description below. And I wanted to mention right now that if you get an account with Audible, you will be able to listen for free to Intentional by David Amerland. And this is a wonderful, wonderful book about setting your intentions and how intentions guide every aspect of your life. I highly recommend it. Anyway, if you join new, um, you'll be able to download and listen for free. And one of the things I like about listening to inspirational books, as it were, like intentional, is that I can listen to little short snippets at any time, and it sort of plants in my brain new thoughts about how I want to conduct my life. So, Audible, Intentional. Um, there's a link in the description below for a 30-day free trial. So go ahead and experience Audible. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, any questions, just ask and keep writing. I will see you next time.